Next up is a great little pattern for both salmon and sea trout. It's a fly called the Editor. Quite an old pattern. I think it's originally designed by or for the old editor at Trout and Salmon called Sandy Levington. This is basically, it's still very much an editor, but a dressing passed to me by a gent called Neil Stevenson, who is a prominent angler up on the Dee and also the North Esk. So big thanks to Neil on the fly front. Just his dressing, and it's worked really well for me over the last couple of seasons on both salmon and sea trout. So a nice little pattern, and definitely worth tying up a few. You can use black nickel, or I've actually got a silver double in the vise here, entirely your prerogative. In the vise I've got the Partridge, Patriot, up eye silver in number 8. Fish this all the way down to 14s, even 16s if you can get away with it. So yeah, size 8 in the vise. I've got 10-0 Vivus in black. So we're going to start off just shy of the head. Again, avoid that head section always if you can at this stage. Any bulk you add will just make a bulky head at the end. There's actually going to be 3 elements to the body. It's including the rib. So the original underbody, if I'm not mistaken, was actually Tipex, which is a bit of a random thing, but there you go. It was Tipex, and also there was also a different rib used to what Neil has passed on to me, which is Amnesia in like a lime, like kind of a greeny yellowy colour. The thickness of this, the stuff that you use, will depend on the size of the hook. I've got the 10-pound version here, but again you can vary the thickness according to the size of the hook. For the smaller sizes you can drop down to like the 6-pound version, and then this size, yeah, the 10-pound will cover you for a few different sizes, even slightly bigger if you want. So I've got in my fingers, I've got some Glow Bright floss, I think it's number 16, which is a white. So the UV Glow Bright floss in white. The body is just medium pearl tinsel. Don't use like Opal Mirage. You want something that will allow the colours from underneath to shine through. So you don't want a solid block colour. This stuff will allow colours to show through. So I'm actually introducing all 3 at the same time here. Try and get the nylon to be the bottom element, because that's the part you're taking over last. So essentially, actually the floss is just coming loose there, so I'll introduce that again. But yeah, try and layer them. So on top you really want the floss, in the middle you want the tinsel, and on the bottom you want the nylon, because that is essentially the way, or the order you will be taking them back up, or the reverse order. So let's take them down all together, down towards just the back end of the hook there. Take the thread back up, try and keep a nice even body. So bring this floss up now, and the great thing with using black underneath is you will see if you miss any sections, it will show through. Just try and take really close touching turns. If there's a little bit of black showing through, obviously don't worry, it's not the end of the world. You could put this floss on a separate bobbin if you wanted to make life a bit easier. I'm just going to work this up like this for now. And you can also create a couple of different layers if you wanted to as well, rather than just that one layer of white. I'm going to keep it streamlined. So secure that off, take it over that butt end of the floss and cut off the excess. Next up is the pearl tinsel. So just take that up again in touching turns, pull it nice and tight, touching turns up the body. What that does is that will really allow that white to basically shine through that tinsel. A couple of securing turns, fold the tinsel back and tie over that butt just to give you a really secure section there. Snip off the excess. Next up is the nylon rib. With this you can actually create a little butt to begin with, so just do 2 or 3 touching turns like so before bringing the rib up. Just try and keep even turns like so till you get to the head. So just there, secure it off, a couple of turns, and this stuff can pull, so do make sure just secure it in well. Again, just bring the thread back over that butt. Okay, that's getting nowhere. Snip off that nylon. Try and use the back end of the scissors here. Like so. So you can see that. I'll just try and get the UV torch, bear with me. With the UV torch you can probably see it just really, UV just explodes. So that's natural. You put the UV, really explodes, just shines through. Does a great effect, really great effect. Okay. So the hackling, I know Neil actually prefers doing a false hackle. I actually like a full hackle. You know what, either or, whichever takes you fancy. Again, it's just a personal preference. I prefer a full hackle. Colour of the hackle, Neil and I think are on a similar wavelength. I actually prefer a slightly darker hackling than the standard. I think the original was a lighter colour blue, which, like a silver, I think silver doctor blue. I actually prefer this kind of royal blue or like a kingfisher blue. So I'm just going to secure that in by the tip, brush those fibres out and just hackle that. Just slowly brush as you twist the hackle around. I'm just holding the stem of the hackle, don't need hackle pliers here. As you're twisting it around, make sure you're not trapping any fibres, and as you bring it around, make sure that the next turn is closer to the eye so that you're not basically going back over the stem. And that's enough. Like 2 or 3 turns is going to be more than enough. Go over the stem, brush everything back and just tie over just to skewer everything in place. Tidy that up a bit like so. Snip off the rest of that stem. Okay, perfect. So the wing, go-to would probably be squirrel, black squirrel. I am a big fan of American opossum, so I'm going to use just this American opossum. Little tip here, again passed on from Neil. He does it in 2 parts. So there's a bit of flash that goes into the wing, and he actually puts that flash in between the layered wing. So it's actually sandwiched in between. So I was going to take a piece of this black American opossum. Just going to strip out. You can see some of these really long hairs here. It's going to take some of them out. We don't need them. and then at the butt section as well, I'm going to take out some of the finer stuff. So what we then do is, with this wing, I'm actually going to split this 2/3 and 1/3. So I'm just going to split it into a heavier bunch for the second lot of wing, like so. So split that out. So this is the lighter base wing. Measure that up. When you're happy, I'm just going to take a couple of turns back that we did earlier, because that'll help us with the neatness of the head. It's all about thread control. Secure that in, just a couple of turns. That's perfect. Snip off these butt sections. So the flash is going to be so crystal flash, like a crystal hair, crystal flash in UV blue. I think this is yeah, it's Vineyard stuff. So UV blue crystal flash, and as with a lot of flash, less is more. So I'm literally going to utilize one strand, but doubled up. So just take about, I don't know, 10 centimeters or so out from the pack, off the hank. So it's got one strand here, and that's all I do is just take it behind the thread, slide it up and over, marry it up to the middle of the wing, make sure it's just running down the middle of that wing, take thread over it, make sure it's just running down, and there you go. So that's all it needs. And cut these in 2 different intervals. You don't want them both ending the same length. So I've got one a little bit further back and one a little bit further forward. Now we bring in the other 2/3 of the wing, and that goes over just to finish that wing off. Just going to tidy that up a bit before introducing it. Okay, let's bring that over. Aim for it to go, I actually like the second wing just to go slightly longer than the first. So just a layered and tapered wing basically. So slightly longer, measure it up. When you're happy with it, bring it in for that pinch and loop. And just take a couple of securing turns, like so. Snip off the butt sections as close as you can, just to tidy up that head, and you can just see it's a nice neat wing there. Finish it off, jungle cock. You don't have to do this. Jungle cock, expensive feather, entirely your prerogative if you want to use it or not. As always, if you're going to use it, you never want to waste a feather, so bring it up to a measure just to make sure that what you're pulling off is actually the right size for the fly. You don't be wasting any of these feathers. Got a couple of nice ones there. Okay, just going to strip back the fluff at the bottom end of the eye, just to give us a nice neat eye to tie in. And keep the stems, so don't clip the eyes, don't clip this section off. You want it to be able to double it up at the end basically. You'll see in a minute. So measure that up where you want it to sit. Happy with that. Just a couple of turns on that riding a bit higher. Just going to twist that slightly. There you go, just there. Just going to get this one sitting in the right place the other side. And a couple of turns, and then take that thread down. The thread's just split a little bit, bear with me, spinning it back up. There you go. So all we want to do now is take these stems, double them up and tie over the stems, and just tidy that head up, tie over as much of the white part of that stem if you can, and just trim off the stems that have been doubled up. And that is the end of the fly. Just going to whip finish. And then afterwards apply a bit of super glue, and then I usually super glue first, then UV, because super glue usually drains into the base feathers and stuff and just holds it in place a lot better. But that is the, hold on, there's a straggly feather there. That looks okay. So, and that is the fly done. So that's the editor, and that is Neil Stevenson, his version of the editor. Just a great little pattern, and one that works well for salmon and for sea trout. So tie a few up, give them a go, and I hope they bring you luck. Tight lines.